Can we start Kirtan?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुकुं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वर. All right. Okay, so the acronym for this chapter is phase. F stands, this is 17th chapter, a continuation of modes of material nature. F for faith, faith in three modes. A for austerities, we are on austerities. In F we also saw food in three modes. A for austerity, we saw last week the austerity of body, the austerity of speech, and the austerity of mind. We saw in austerity of body, paying obeisances to brahmanas, to the supreme lord, to the spiritual master, to mother and father, um, um, celibacy, cleanliness, simplicity. These were the austerities of body. Austerities of speech, we saw it should be pleasing, it should be truthful, it should be beneficial, it should not be agitating to others. And um, we can attain this austerity of speech by reciting Vedic mantras and Vedic scriptures. That is also austerity of speech. Then austerity of mind, we saw um, simplicity. Simple mind means not duplicitous. Not duplicitous means we have positive feelings for everyone. Means we are non-envious. Um, that is being simple, inside, outside, same. Then we saw satisfaction. As soon as the mind goes towards sense gratification, the mind becomes dissatisfied. So satisfaction of the mind can be attained by meditating or focusing on Krishna consciousness. If the mind goes away, if the mind goes away, the mind will become dissatisfied, but immediately bring it back. Then the mind can again become stable. So this was satisfaction, there was simplicity, and then there was gravity. Gravity means speak only as much as necessary and internally train the mind in Krishna consciousness. Be transcendental. That is gravity. And then another austerity, there are two more. One is uh, purification by Krishna consciousness, purifying the mind by the process of Krishna consciousness. And there is one more. Anyone remember?
Self-control.
Self-control, yeah, thank you. Self-control. So the mind, we should not let the mind become loose. If the mind is proposing so many ideas or so many etc etc which are not conducive for Krishna consciousness, we should train the mind using the higher intelligence. Thank you, Renali Mataji. So these were the austerities of mind, and now we will continue, and we should be able to finish this chapter today. There are only 10 verses. It's a short chapter, but since the last two sections were little deep, that's why we took more time there. Okay, so we covered this one: simplicity, satisfaction, gravity, self-control, and purification are the austerities of the mind. Now, we discussed, okay, uh, please someone go ahead and read it.
These threefold austerity performed with the transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engage only for the sake of the supreme is called the austerity is in Gunya.
So, threefold austerity. What is threefold austerity? Austerity of the body, austerity of the mind, austerity of the speech. Performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engage only for the sake of supreme is called austerity in goodness. Now we are discussing austerity in three modes. So that includes austerity of speech in three modes, austerity of body in three modes, austerity of mind in three modes. That's why little complex, but we'll just try to cover whatever we can. These threefold miseries. Now what we are discussing is austerity in goodness means for all three. That's why Krishna says threefold austerity. Performed with transcendental faith, by men not expecting material benefit but engage only for the sake of supreme. Then, for example, okay, sorry. Um, when we are performing austerity only for the sake of pleasing Krishna, then that is austerity mode of goodness. Actually, whatever we discussed last week, we discussed from the perspective of how to perform these austerities from Krishna conscious perspective. So this is self-explanatory. Let's try to discuss something here. Someone can read. Now, when Krishna says penance, that's same as austerity. Okay.
Penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent.
Now, we can perform austerity of these three, body, mind, and speech, for the purpose of pride. We can do that. Like we bow down, so everybody thinks, wow, this person is so humble. Every time he bows down. Now, we performed austerity of body, but the motive was somebody will glorify me because I bow down so many times. I bow down to every Vaishnav. So then that becomes austerity of body in the mode of passion. Likewise, if somebody is very truthful, this happens in this material world, is very so-called dharmic, but he's not a devotee of Krishna. He is very truthful, he is very nice, gentle, pleasing, but somewhere deep in the core of his heart, he has this pride that people recognize me as a very nice person and I am better than others. They lose their temper, their speech is harsh, but I am very well known for the way I conduct myself, the way I speak, the way I talk, and they think of themselves as better than others. So they are performing austerity of speech, but because they are performing out of pride for the sake of gaining honor, respect, and worship, they are that austerity of speech is also in a mode of passion. And austerity of mind can be they have lot of sense control, but they are proud of their sense control. So they speak very less, and they speak only when necessary. But although they speak very less, they are not considered grave because they are not Krishna conscious within, but they are proud that I don't frivolously talk like all these people who gossip. I withdraw myself and I have my own status, my own stature, and I am seen in high regards by others. So, when austerity of body, mind, and speech, all these can be performed. See, if the words are pleasing, if one is practicing celibacy or is simple in his conduct, or pays obeisances or doesn't speak much and is satisfied with what he has, but the purpose of all, it's an austerity, it's an austerity in all three. But if the purpose of these is to gain respect, honor, worship, so respect, honor, and worship are different degrees. At least people will respect me, they will honor me, and they will worship me. Different degrees of pride. So when they are performed out of pride, then it is called as it's an austerity, as Krishna described threefold austerity, but it is in mode of passion. Now Krishna says it is neither stable nor permanent. So those people who try to act being pleasing, being this, being that externally for honor, very soon they become exposed. Sooner or later people come to know the real nature, because because uh, uh, because when we are proud we make mistakes. My spiritual master says, fall comes before pride, and corner cases will be exposed, where we lose our so-called what we are proud of, and we lose our reputation. So at some point of time, we can attract some worship for a little bit amount of time, but if somebody stays with us, then they know who these people are. So Krishna says it is not stable or permanent, but one who is doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, and if he is not doing it now, one usually it can be mixed. One is doing for the pleasure of the Lord, but one is proud of his position also. Then again he will be exposed, and he will have to go through humiliation. But in the state of pure devotion means there is no mixture. There is no mix. Usually our bhakti is karma mishta bhakti, means we want to do it for the pleasure of the Lord, but we think high of ourselves also. So we have both the angles. When these two angles are there, humiliation will come. Wherever there is an action out of pride, eventually humiliation will come. That's how mode of nature acts. So to the extent we are doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, to that extent our state will be stable and permanent. To the extent it is for ourselves, we'll be humiliated. So that's threefold misery in mode of passion. All right. um, Another example can be fasting. One can fast. Fasting requires austerity of body, because we are fasting. It's a kind of worship, so we are fasting. Then it requires austerity of tongue also, because we are not eating or tasting anything. It requires austerity of mind also. There is sense control needed. Um, um, but we may be thinking that everybody knows that I am fasting, so they will consider me in high regards. I mean, just an example. There can be many, many examples. Krishna will help us to identify what am I doing, for what sake. We can do any service. Even we can be cooking for the Lord. And then there will be a mixed feeling. I am cooking for Lord, but then I have another purpose also. If we are cooking, I mean, we can be cooking. If suppose guests are coming, then we can be cooking. Um, they should know how nice cook I am, how many varieties I know, how much, or if it's in a devotee circle, then one may think um, how much devotion I have, because I cook so particularly and so uniquely and so cleanly. So one can be proud of anything. Um, One time, one Mataji, this is in Chopati, she was asked to take a leadership position in the temple. She was servant of servant, serving under, just happy in doing some menial services. And she was asked to take a leadership position, to become a board member and run the temple. So she went to her spiritual master, who is my spiritual master also. She went and she asked Maharaj, I don't want to take this position because I'm afraid that I will become proud. And Maharaj said, pride is not dependent upon your seva. Pride is a state of consciousness. If we have pride in the heart, then we can be proud of that I am servant of servant. We can be proud of that also. In fact, a beggar, if there are 4 or 5 beggars sitting, and somebody comes and puts a cent in one bowl, and or maybe $1 in one bowl, and he does not give to any other beggar, then this beggar may become proud that I only received $1. He has nothing. He just have $1 with which he cannot get anything, or a very insignificant amount. Still he can become proud of that also. And if someone is not proud, he can be the prime minister, president, or from devotional perspective a very spiritually perfect Vaishnava. Still he may not become proud. So pride is something very deep, and it's something that naturally arises, and to defeat is difficult. Um, One of our Acharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, explains pride is something that arises due to bhakti. When we perform nice bhakti, then pride will come along with bhakti. I chant maximum number of rounds. I'm very strict with reading Bhagavad Gita. I really understand very well everything that is being discussed. Or I am most devotional, I am more sincere, or all these things can come in one's heart. So this is because we are performing bhakti. By that bhakti, we are becoming proud, and that pride, um, when when now we are chanting the holy names, we are doing, these are all austerity of body, mind and speech, and we are being so nice, so we are doing all these things perfectly. But if there is pride mixed in that devotion, then sooner or later we will be humbled also. Krishna arranges in this way. It happens over and over again till we become purified. Now it's okay, it's okay. Just try to defeat yourself, defeat yourself, defeat yourself. The moment you realize there is some pride in me, defeat yourself. Usually what I do, when I see a thought coming, then I pray to the heart, then I pray to the Lord, my Lord, humble me. Please humble me. I don't want, I just want you. Just please increase my attraction to you. Please take me closer to you. And in front of the whole world, make me fool number one. And let everybody think that I am nonsense. And please let me come closer to you. So the moment thought comes, we have to defeat ourselves. How you defeat, it's your individual, how you do it. But the more and more you express to Krishna, my Lord, I only want you, I don't want any of these things, I only want you, please let me grow in my devotion to you. Then based on desire, Krishna reciprocate. To the extent that desire is pure, I mean, we may not be pure, agreed, but at least we can desire to become pure. To the extent we are desiring to be pure, that much faster we will become pure. It all depends upon, Ashla Prabhupada said, we can be praying, my Lord, please let me do everything so nicely that I can be glorified. We don't say that I can be glorified, but let me do everything so perfectly and so nicely, naturally we'll become glorified from it. And then there is somewhere in the heart that let me be glorified. And that's why we want everything to be so nice and perfect. Do we want everything nice and perfect for the pleasure of Krishna, or are there ulterior motives also? So this mode of passion is deeply infiltrated in the heart of a conditioned soul. And everything he does, he has desire for honor, respect, and prestige. And Krishna says the result is it will be, it will not be stable, and it will not be permanent. Means we have to go through waves. Sometimes same thing we are proud of, at same place we'll be completely humbled. Krishna is divine. Krishna is expert. Krishna knows exactly what is needed for us to grow. Krishna is our well-wisher. And then we have a choice to take it as this is Krishna's mercy, that Krishna is humbling me. And we take further humble position, or to become upset with Krishna. Neophyte devotees, they sometimes become upset with Krishna. Why Krishna didn't reciprocate with me? When I tried so much, when I worked so hard, when I prayed so much still. So Krishna knows exactly what is needed for us to become pure. So this is something on penance in the mode of passion. We are motivated by something other than Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti. Alright, does anyone has any question here? Okay. Okay, someone can read this.
Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
So one can perform austerity of body, austerity of mind and austerity of speech in mode of ignorance also. Austerity of body, like uh, fasting comes under simplicity. Simplicity, one aspect of simplicity is how we dress ourselves of the body. Another aspect of simplicity of the body is our food habits, our eating habits. So fasting comes under austerity of body, under simplicity. So um, one can one can perform fasting, Srila Prabhupada says, for political purposes. Like there was, let me read this again. Performed out of foolishness with self torture or to destroy or injure others is said to be the mode of goodness. With self torture, this example comes. Politician sometime, like some follower of Gandhi, he fasted for 32, 33 days and then he left his body. Glorified, very much glorified. But it's a self torture which is not according to scriptures. So, according to Krishna, it's not recommended. Some people, they torture themselves for reasons other than pleasing Krishna. It's an austerity of body, but the purpose is not pure devotion to Krishna. Then, one very good example is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was performing severe austerities of body. He did a lot of tapasya. In fact, it is mentioned he would stand on the tip of the toes with raised hands, severe austerity, and he developed a lot of mystic power. In fact, it is said that he had no flesh remaining in the body, no flesh remaining. Um, Brahmaji came, and his situation was only the bones were visible, covered by a skin. So that much kind of austerity he performed. So it was self torture and to destroy or injure others. His purpose was, I want to become Vishnu and I want to become very powerful so that I can injure or destroy all devotees of Vishnu. So once all the devotees of Vishnu will die, his thought process was, if you kill all the devotees, if you kill all the cows, then Vishnu will also die, because he's a demoniac person. That's how he thought. So the purpose was self-torture, to destroy, to injure others. There is austerity, and he performed austerity of speech. How? He recited Vedic mantras to please Brahma. So there is an austerity of speech involved. He performed austerity of mind. He would not speak. He would not let his mind deviate to sense gratification. He was so focused on his goal, to please Brahma in reciting Vedic mantras. Um, so there is austerity involved, and then gravity, because he was silent. Um, Self control. He had so much self control. uh, he would not let the mind become loose. Oh, I'm tired, my hands are paining, my legs are paining. Intense amount of self control. So some aspects of austerity of body, austerity of speech, and austerity of mind are there, but the purpose is self torture, not according to scriptures. The motive was not according to scriptures, and to injure and destroy others. And foolishness. I mean, you want to become Krishna, you want to become Vishnu, you want to kill Vishnu. It's foolishness. Foolishness means which is not possible. Foolish. So, performed out of foolishness with self torture to destroy or injure other is said to be in a mode of ignorance. Okay. And austerity of body, he would perform celibacy for many, many months till the time he was a celibate. Um, so there is another story also of a devotee of Shiva, who wanted to please Shiva, and he would perform severe austerity of body, mind, and recital of Vedic mantras. And as a sacrifice to the body, he would have a fire sacrifice, and he would cut a part of the flesh and offer into the fire. and he was bleeding, he would cut another part of the flesh and offer it to the fire. Another part, another part, another part. His whole body was practically full of wounds, and he was offering his flesh into the sacrifice. There are such demoniac people. They do all these kind of ignorant nonsense things. At one point of time, he was about to cut off his head and offer to sacrificial fire, and he was so eager to receive material benediction from Shiva. So there is full self control, there is recital of mantras to please Shiva, there is austerity of body, severe austerity of body. But it's Shiva came actually. When he was about to cut off his head, Lord Shiva appeared. But it is said it is austerities, but it is in mode of ignorance. So one must perform austerity of body, mind, and speech for pleasing Krishna. That is required.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Maharaj, I have seen personally in my life that whoever is a very, great devotee, who has become a great devotee in his life has been centered around, some austerities. Even, when we see Lord Chaitanya making Brahmana, that, what austerities Gajendra did. But Maharaj, in his previous life, he was a great sage, and he did quite a lot of austerities, and he was sitting in meditation and everything like that. But personally, like Shabri also, you were discussing yesterday, so she also went through a lot of austerities. But personally, it has been said by Prabhupada that no austerity is required and things like that. So could you please clarify?
Clarify. I never said
Prabhupada never said that.
human life is meant for austerity. But what is austerity? Austerity is to accept what is favorable for devotional service and reject what is unfavorable. It is not the austerity that attracts Krishna, it's the love. If we are performing our austerities for the purpose of awakening that love, then it will be a positive aid to achieve that love. Our austerities is to express to Krishna our sincere desire to love him. When we fast on Ekadasi, when we follow the 4 regulative principles, when we rise early in the morning, when we take our baths, when we perform our service, sometimes it's austerity. And we must do that if we want to purify ourselves. But it's not the austerity that captures Krishna. If we don't have the proper attitude, if we're not doing it, ultimately austerity is to reduce the distractions of the material inclinations of the body and mind so that we can fix our body and mind in the loving remembrance and service and meditation on Krishna. That is austerity. And we need to do that because we're so much distracted. We're so much diverted. But it's not the austerity that attracts Krishna. It's the love that we gain through the austerity. So we don't have to do excessive austerities. But we do have to, if we want to develop this love, do what is favorable for the awakening of our bhakti. So yes, Gajendra and Shabari, they did tapasya, but they did it to achieve pure love. And it's that bhakti that connects them, not the austerity. Austerity is like a tool. But the tool is meant to function. It's meant to be used by a person who's going to do something right with it. So for this Brahmin, Lord Chaitanya wanted to teach the world that people can do austerities and become proud. It's usually what happens if we do too many austerities. We become hard-hearted and proud. Look what I could do. Look at how I could fast. Look at my celibacy. Look at my not sleeping. The six Goswamis, they were the most austere of anyone. The perfection of life is to follow in the footsteps of the six Goswamis. They slept 1 to 2 hours a day. They were Goswamis, completely detached from any physical relationships, pleasure. They hardly ate anything. But they were absolutely humble because they did it out of love. So when austerity creates pride, when austerity is for the purpose of being austere, or just getting some spiritual advancement, then that austerity is a distraction itself. So Shabri did austerity, but she did it for love. And it wasn't her austerity that attracted Ram, it was her love that attracted Ram. And love was the mean, austerity was the means of deepening that love. Does that answer your question? I think.
Okay, something very deep. Now, any reflections from what you heard? Were you able to hear?
Yes, Prabhu, it was audible.
Okay. Any reflections?
Like he said, austerity is somewhat a tool which should be used by as means we can use this austerity as a tool to achieve the Lord mercy and all those. But only austerity cannot be something which we can rely upon. It's
Yeah.
bhakti only which will means austerity will help us in our bhakti to achieve the consciousness level and all those. But it is just a support. This is what I guess.
Well, the devotee Ashla Prabhupada said, devotees don't need to do austerity, and Maharaj said, where did Prabhupada never said that? In fact, tapo devyam puttaka eva sattvam. Human life is meant for austerity. But what is austerity? Austerity is something done for the pleasure of the Lord.
Right.
Hiranyakashipu did austerity not for the pleasure of the Lord. Useless. He had to meet his own death because of that austerities. So it is done for the pleasure of the Lord. So what is austerity for us? Maharaj said, whatever is favorable for Krishna, accept it. What is unfavorable for Krishna, reject it. That is an austerity. Like chanting of the holy name, favorable, accept it. Even if you don't want to accept it, accept it. Then it's an austerity. It's an austerity to please Krishna, to express our love for Krishna. Now that austerity will attract Krishna. Um, not eating certain food stuff, it's an austerity. But because it is favorable to Krishna, it will help us advance. And whatever is unfavorable, reject it. Like we are attracted to some sense gratification in any form, the form of smell, the form of hearing, the form, the form of touch, whatever be the kind of attraction one may have. If we reject it because it is unfavorable for my Krishna consciousness, it's an austerity. It's an austerity. But why am I doing that? Because it is not favorable for my Krishna consciousness. I want to develop deeper relationship with Krishna, and it's coming on my way, so I reject it. So it's an austerity, but the purpose is to please Krishna, expression of love. Then that austerity will benefit us. But Maharaj said many times austerity is performed for the sake of austerity and pride. Usually austerities makes hard heart. There are some devotees, they don't eat as a austerity. They don't eat any sweets, any fried, only fruits, only once a day as an austerity. But then they may be thinking, um, I am so much sense control. And it is, if it is, I mean, it's very nice to do like that. Even our Goswamis would do like that. But it's all about motive. It's not the activity which matters. It's about the motive with which the activity is rendered. If the motive is pure, this is favorable for my Krishna consciousness, I am accepting it. This is not favorable for my Krishna consciousness, so I am rejecting it. Then austerity is used in the right direction. Okay, Hriday Prabhu, thank you for adding. Any other deflection? Okay, oh, all right. Okay, now we come to charity. We will discuss charity in 3 modes. Okay, charity in mode of goodness. Someone can read this?
That gift which is given out of duty at the proper time and place to a what person and without expectation of return is considered to be the charity in the mode of goodness.
Now charity. We all give charity, naturally. So charity is also in 3 modes. So this is charity in mode of goodness, the gift which is given out of duty. Um, different ashrams have different duty. Like we discussed, brahmachari ashram, vanaprasth ashram, sannyas ashram. They don't give charity monetarily, but they give charity in the form of knowledge, setting an example, like that, mainly knowledge. So that's their duty. They're duty bound to do this. Likewise, grahasth ashram, they are duty bound to give charity, because that's the only ashram which maintains all the other 3 ashrams. So that gift which is given out of duty, now that is, this is my duty, so I should do it. So one aspect. Now, at a proper time and place to a worthy person and without expectation of return. Proper time, proper place, proper person, and without expectation of return. Now, this is the story in the example is Bali Maharaj. Vaman Dev came and asked for 3 steps of land. Bali Maharaj said, why only 3 steps? Vaman Dev said, a person who is not satisfied with what the person has can never be satisfied. So just give me 3 steps. His Bali Maharaj spiritual master Shukracharya told him he is Narayan himself. Reject it. He will take everything from you. Reject it. And Bali Maharaj rejected his own spiritual master, because a spiritual master should be rejected if the spiritual master takes us away from Krishna. The role of spiritual master is take us closer to Krishna. If he takes us away from Krishna, he is no longer considered a spiritual master. So because Shukracharya was taking Bali Maharaj away from Krishna, he was rejected. It is said that that's the only place where a spiritual master can be rejected. Otherwise, we should follow all the instructions of spiritual master, other than this one instruction, if he ask us to take us away from Krishna. So Bali Maharaj gave charity to a proper place in proper time. It was the right time, morning time. It's not necessary, but yeah, uh, it was a worthy person giving to Narayan. Out of duty, as a king, he is meant to give charity to Brahmanas. The role of um, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas is to give charity to Brahmanas. Um, he had no expectation in return. He doesn't want anything from Vamandev. He just want, well, he's a Brahmana, let him be happy. He has asked for charity. It's my duty to give him. So this is charity in mode of goodness. Another charity is, this is Nanda Baba. When Krishna was born, Nand Baba gave thousands of cows. Each cow had gold necklaces and golden jewelry on their horns, and they were garlanded, and um, they had a silken cloth on them. So with like that and lot of other uh, daily routine articles, because Krishna was born, when a child is born, the father gives lot of charity. That's Vedic culture. So Vasudev, when Krishna was born to Vasudev, Vasudev wanted to give lot of charity, but Vasudev could not because he was in the jail. So he gave charity in the mind. And later on, when he was released from jail, he gave lot of charity to Brahmanas. And when Krishna was transferred to Nand Baba satisfied all the Brahmanas. So that's charity. It's a duty. He's a king. It's a duty to proper persons, Brahmanas, to proper persons, and proper time circumstances child is born. So another example of charity mode of goodness. This another example of charity. This lady, she was an untouchable woman. There are some untouchable women. They sweep the streets, and they do many kind of menial tasks. And some so-called brahmanas and others, they stay away from them. So this lady was she heard that Supreme Lord Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and she's extremely beautiful. And she heard some of his pastimes, some of his characteristics, some of his features. She never saw Krishna, but she was very much attracted. So she crossed the Yamuna river. She came on the other side, and she was carrying fruits. Nobody would buy fruit. Nobody would touch her, go near to her, because by that dress and by the look, it's quite prominent in those times. So this lady was going, and she was carrying out kela, santara, seb, and she was calling out all the fruits. And she would go around and around and around Nanda Baba's house so that Krishna can come. Kela, santara, seb. So she's um, moving, but unknowingly, as she was going in the circle near the house of Nanda Baba, unconsciously, she was chanting another name. She was chanting Damodar, Keshav. So she was chanting the names of Krishna unknowingly instead of fruits. And Krishna was very much attracted by her love, because she came all the way just to see Krishna, just to have a darshan of Krishna. And then Krishna, now there was a barter system at that point of time. Barter system means you give them something, some rice, some cloth, some grains, some valuables, and they will give what they have. So you exchange the items. There was exchange of items. And then Krishna came running, and Krishna was carrying some rice to give her, so that she can get some fruits. He can get some fruits. So Krishna went, and his hands are like, he just started walking. He is very, very young, 2, 3, 4 years in that range. And his hands are tiny, teeny, and he would carry just few grains. And because he could not hold them properly, it's all pastimes. He could not hold them properly. As he was running, all the grains were falling on the ground because of some hole in his hand, and he was running to exchange the love that this woman had for Krishna. And as he reached the woman, um, he said, "Can you give me some fruits?" And he said, "I have something for you also. What do you have? Open your hand." And he opened the hand, and there were 2, 3 grains of rice. Everything fell down. Just 2, 3 grains. And this is why she came. She just came. She was completely captivated by seeing Krishna, and in association, but just by being around Krishna, she was experiencing transcendental happiness. Her motherly affection was supremely topmost. It is said that in Vrindavan, all the mothers love Krishna way more than they love their own children, because um, that's Krishna. One can have loving relationship to the fullest extent only with Krishna. So when she was with Krishna, she was like blown off by that experience and transcended divine pleasure. And she said, Kana, you give me this rice. And she got 2 3 grains, and she said, take all the fruits, take as many fruits as you like. And she was giving fruits, and then she said, well, can I hold you? Can I hold you? And Krishna was thinking, what if Mother Yashoda see me sitting in her lap, and she is holding me? She'll become really upset because of the system in the culture. And she said, all right, quickly. So she held Krishna, and she was in deep love. um, and then Krishna took all the fruits, and Krishna ran away. And this lady, she completely lost consciousness, and she walked, and she gave all the fruits to Krishna. And um, she was carrying empty basket, and her motive was to go to the forest, break from more fruits, mangoes, apples, bananas from the trees, and come back immediately so she can see Krishna again. And when she went to the forest, she saw her whole basket was filled with jewels. As you can see in the picture, she is giving fruits to Krishna, and her basket is filled with jewels, emeralds, rubies, diamonds, um, and she didn't care at all. That's the nature of love. Once we are attracted to love of Krishna, our material desires goes away, because the love of Krishna is so overwhelming that nothing else remains. So she saw, uh, her basket was full of emeralds, diamonds, and rubies. She threw them in the ground. She didn't care for them. She got more fruits, and she again started circling Nanda Baba's house. She cannot knock. The culture is like that. And knowingly, unknowingly, she was singing. I don't remember the song. It's like, okay, it's name of Krishna's. Um, Krish, Govinda Damodareti, something like, it's full of names of Krishna, and she was doing again. Finally, after that experience, she entered into Yamuna, and she had no desire. Somehow she was so overwhelmed with that love, she don't want to continue her work. And same day she attained the lotus feet of Krishna. Actually, she entered into Yamuna. um, so that's now, there is charity. I mean, the reason I put this example here is she's giving to a proper person. Time, place, circumstance is perfect because this is Krishna. And okay. Okay, so that was something on mode of goodness, charity, which is done either to Brahmanas or to the Supreme Lord out of duty, without anything in return. This woman, she didn't want anything from Krishna in return. Just as a matter of exchange, Krishna gave her 3 grains of rice, and she is happy even if Krishna doesn't give. She just want to give Krishna without anything in return. So these are aspects of charity in mode of goodness. Now, something about charity and passion. Someone can read.
But charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion.
But when we give charity because we want something, As you can see, we are giving from one hand, we are receiving from one hand. So when charity is performed with expectation for some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, like some people do lot of give lot of charity because they want to attain heavenly kingdom, or they want to attain good karma, like they give to poor people and other things because they know that this will bring back good to me. Many people say, um, if we are doing good, good will come to us. So that's kind of passion feeling, because we are not selfless in our activities, but because we have some expectation, I'm doing good so that I can be happy in this world. So that's a desire for fruitive results. It can be in a grudging mood. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, if some superior ask us to give some charity, and we give some charity, but we don't want to give, then that charity becomes in mode of passion. We are giving because we are asked to give. So the mood is of a grudge. I don't want to do it, but what do? I don't want to do it, but oh, all right. So in a grudging mood. So that is charity in mode of passion, without expectation of some return. Like when we are building temple, in the temple we have um, a place where we write the names of devotees who helped in building the temple. So some people were very eager that my name should be there, and because I gave maximum amount, my name should be separate from others. So there are some expectation of results. That's okay, because if they give for Krishna, even if for some expectation of some results, that charity will purify them. It will help them to purify their earning, and when they give charity, actually um, they give their karma in the form of charity, so that purifies them. So that's okay, but ideally without, for the pleasure of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord. But when some desire for some return, for some fruitive activity, something materially good will happen, or in a grudging mood, then it is charity in mode of passion. All right, let's go to mode of ignorance charity.
And charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, or to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
So there are two aspects of charity in ignorance. One is impure place, improper time, unworthy persons. So Prabhupada says charity of intoxicants lies in this category. Like you give somebody, here is a bottle of wine. I'm seeing you, you like it so much and you don't have money. So take it and you drink. Why should I be happy? You should also be happy. So but because the person is improper, the person who is giving is in ignorance, the person who is receiving is also in ignorance. Improper time, it can be during the pub time, night time. Improper place, um, um, outside bars or whatever, it's just an example. But when it is, when the thing given is wrong, to a unworthy person, then this is charity, but it is in ignorance, because it's increasing the ignorance of the other person. Or without proper attention and respect is said to be in mode of ignorance. This is another aspect of charity in mode of ignorance. Without proper respect, for example, a brahmana come to your home and you feed him some prashadam, but if you are feeding him with disrespect, then that becomes, it's a charity. You are giving food, it's a charity of food. It's a charity of food to a proper person, to brahmanas, or to who don't earn or something like that. But if you give without attention and without respect, then that becomes ignorance. Like, naturally, if you go to somebody's home and they serve you some prasadam, and they're like, um, Prabhuji, you can sit in that corner and finish. Once you are done, gate is outside, and okay. Next time if you come, let me know beforehand, because it causes so much anxiety. So the other person cannot eat and cannot digest also because not proper respect and attention is given while serving. So that's an example. There can be many examples. So charity to an improper person, improper thing, that is one aspect of charity in mode of ignorance. Another is you are giving to a right person, giving to a right thing, but without respect and attention. Then that is also charity in mode of ignorance. Okay, any question on charity? We are done with this section of charity. All right, now this is the last section for today. uh, this is also quite straightforward. Okay, someone can read.
Om Tat Sat. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme.
Now this is little bit different, a separate topic. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic mantras and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of Supreme. So Krishna is describing about what is Om Tat Sat. And some of you may have heard, those who have not heard have heard it now. Um, these mantras come the in the Vedic scriptures, and it is said that whatever, now this is the ending of this chapter. The essence is Krishna has described charity in mode of goodness, austerity in mode of goodness, um, um, penance, um, whatever Krishna has described. One should perform austerity, charity, and sacrifices. Sacrifice in mode of goodness. So sacrifice, austerity, and charity must be performed, but the Vedic Brahmanas would perform these things along with the mantra Om Tat Sat. And Krishna is recommended that these things, when performed with Om Tat Sat, becomes complete. That's the essence. What does Om Tat Sat mean? This will come in future verses. Um, okay. So Krishna is here telling they were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So the goal Krishna is mentioning here, when we say Om Tat Sat, means I am doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. That's what Om Tat Sat means. In other words, the Prabhupada describes in the purport, um, austerity, sacrifices, charity, they all must be performed for the pleasure of the Lord. And that's what Om Tat Sat means. Om Tat Sat. Okay, I gave this charity, Om Tat Sat. Means, and I will explain word to word meaning of Om Tat Sat, but I don't want to go in slides ahead. But I'm doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. That's the mood. You perform some fasting, Om Tat Sat, for the pleasure of the Lord. You perform some sacrifices, Om Tat Sat, for the pleasure of the Lord. That's the mood Krishna wants us to carry. Okay. (24)
Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme.
Now Krishna is describing Om, and here he is telling sacrifice, charity, and penance. This is what Krishna is explained in this chapter. In the beginning, Krishna explained faith in three modes, food in three modes, sacrifice in three modes. Then we discuss austerity in three modes: austerity of body, austerity of mind, austerity of speech, and austerity of all these threefold miseries in passion, these three austerity in goodness, these three austerity in ignorance. And then Krishna said charity in mode of goodness, charity in mode of passion, charity in mode of ignorance. Now this is a summary. Transcendentalist undertaking sacrifice, charity, penance begins with scriptural injunction, begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. Srila Prabhupada describes Om is like, if you remember 11th chapter, Krishna says, among the sound vibrations, I am Om. Among sound vibrations. So Om is actually impersonal aspect of the Lord. And if you see all the Vedic mantras, they begin with Om. Um, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyan Timirandhasya. The mantra we chant, our Mangala Charan begins with that. Um, 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 Om Tad Vishnu Yat Paramam Padakam Sada Pasyanti Surayaha. That is the prayer we chant before we go to the altar. So all the mantras we chant, what is that? Om apavitra pavitra va sarva vastam gatopi va yasmed panditi kaksham sabhaya bhayantara suchihi begins with Om. So beginning with O means representing the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, why Om and why Hare Krishna Mahamantra? And why some people chant Om, why some people chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra? There, Srila Prabhupada described that Upanishads, many Upanishads, they glorify the word Om. Om is usually sung or chanted by those people who believe God does not have a form. So Upanishads help us to go closer to the Lord. Like Srila Prabhupada explains that to chant Krishna and to accept Krishna is God requires lot of qualification. Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanamam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samarma Sudurlabha. Takes many, many millions of birth. Yesham Tota Gatam Papam Punan Janana Karmanam Te Dwanda Mohan Nirmakta Bhajante Mam Diravrata. After many, many births of pious activities, when one's sinful tendencies have been removed, um, then one can come to accept that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is a very high bar for one to understand Krishna and who Krishna is. In fact, um, Krishna says in 15th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Vedasya sarvar ahameva veda, Vedanta krit veda videva chaham. From Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of Vedas. And we saw in the end of 15th chapter, Krishna says, I am that I am I am that person who is glorified in the various scriptures as a supreme personality of Godhead. And this is the most confidential knowledge. One who knows this knows everything. So that's the essence, but not everyone is qualified to get that. So they will not be able to chant the name of Krishna. It takes lots and lots of sukriti to chant the name of Krishna. So Upanishad gives us indirect way to bring us closer to Krishna. Scientists, professors, yogis, meditators, all different people, Mayavadis, everybody can chant the name Om. But they don't realize what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Om I am. By doing that, they are going closer to Krishna. Eventually, they'll become qualified to understand Krishna and know Krishna. Because Om is also a transcendental vibration. By chanting Om, their bad karma, good karma are getting removed. They are becoming purified because it's bhakti, knowingly, unknowingly. Nobody has any problem to accept God does not have a form. But it takes a lot of qualification to accept or the understanding to understand who Krishna is and his transcendental position. Not everyone can do that. So Om helps there. So that's why scriptures explain Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Uh, all the mantras that begin with Om are included in are included in Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's why Hare Krishna it's called Mahamantra. Mahamantra means all the mantras are within that mantra. That's why it's called Mahamantra. Okay. Anyone has any question? Okay. All right. Someone can read this. This is, I think, third last verse for today.
Without desiring. Okay, go ahead. No, Sucheta, you can read.
I
Without
can't hear.
desiring,
Yeah. Go ahead.
without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement.
Um, why, when to use the word tat, Om Tat Sat? I mean, some of you may be like confused and like, what's going on here? Don't worry. Srila Prabhupada very nicely summarized in the last slide that I will show you. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word tat. And we saw that sacrifice, charity, penance, when performed with fruitive desire, is in mode of passion. When performed without any return for the sake of the pleasure of the Lord, that is in goodness. So one must perform sacrifice, penance, charity with the word tat. The purpose of such transcendental activity is to get free from material entanglement. So again, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing um, um, the purpose is to become free from material entanglement, and when it is done for some return, it will entangle us. And when we say Om Tat Sat after doing any of these activity, means everything for the pleasure of the Lord, nothing for myself. That's the mood we try to cultivate when we say Om Tat Sat. Okay, someone can read this, something about Sat. Now just to say something, Tat means truth, absolute truth. So Om Tat Sat, if you are getting confused, I'm trying to clarify. Om is representing, Bhakti Charu Maharaj says Om represents Radha and Krishna together. So Om means representation of Krishna, sound representation of Krishna, as Krishna mentions in 11th canto. um, Among the sound vibration, I am Om. So Om is referring to the Supreme Lord. Tat is referring to him as the absolute truth. Om Tat. And Sat means eternity. So Om Tat Sat means the eternal absolute truth. And when we say Om is a pranav mantra, pranav and Tat Sat. So when we say Om Tat Sat, means it is meant for the absolute truth. So that's why Krishna is telling here, perform sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word tat, means for the sake of absolute truth. The purpose is to get free from material entanglement. But if you're not working or saying, doing these things for absolute truth, then we are doing for temporary benefits. So the purpose is actually to become free from material entanglement. Okay, something about Sat. Someone can read this?
The absolute truth is the object of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat. As are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O Son of Pritha.
The objective of devotional service, absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. Sat means permanence. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O Son of Pritha. So this is the absolute. The goal is to please Krishna, who is eternal, and that's what is means Sat, is indicated by the word Sat. If you read in 23rd verse, Srila Prabhupada describes long purport about where Om Tat Sat is coming from Vedic Shruti mantras, and that actually means it is meant for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay. this is another mantra. I will just read it. Now we are about to end. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. If you say Om Tat Sat, is referring to Om Tad Vishnu. Sat means permanent, is referring to the Supreme Lord. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam means I offer everything out of devotion to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Now someone can read this and this will clarify if any question one has.
Omkara is the alphabetical representation of Krishna. This representation of Krishna is impersonal, just like his luster of the body, Brahman, effulgence. Impersonalists like to chant Omkara, but we wish to chant his feature of pastimes, because his personal feature is the ultimate understanding. Omkara is the symbol of eternity, but there is no bliss and knowledge. Om Tat Sat. Tat means the absolute truth, and Sat means eternal. Omkara is also used denoting address. Om Tat Sat means, oh, the absolute truth is eternal.
That's the meaning. Absolute truth is eternal, and I am doing sacrifice, penance, charity for the pleasure of absolute truth. So in essence, I gave some charity in the temple to some brahmanas. I gave some food to the brahmanas. I performed some yajna, some sacrifice for the pleasure of the Lord. I performed some austerity like fasting and other things. Om Tat Sat. The supreme truth is eternal, and I offer whatever I did for his pleasure. That's the meaning. So we begin and we end with Om Tat Sat, something like that. Okay. Any question? Okay, someone can read this last verse for today.
Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next.
So here Krishna is telling, if we do any of these things, sacrifice, charity, penance, without faith in Supreme, then that the result will be impermanent, and it is called asat. Sat means eternal. Asat means temporary. Temporary means impermanent. So when we say Om Tat Sat, for the pleasure of the Lord, anything done for the pleasure of the Lord, we grow in bhakti, eternal benefit. But when we do it without faith in the Supreme, for any other reason, we may get some benefit, like Hiranyakashipu got some benefit from austerity. Yes, certainly these things are pious also. We may get fruitive results if we are doing for those. If we do to please demigods and get heavenly planet, we'll get that. But the result will be impermanent. Hiranyakashipu got the power, but he died. We can go to heavenly planet, then we come back to earthly planet. We can get whatever benefit, but the result is temporary, asat, impermanence. And Krishna is telling it's useless in this life and in next life also. This life also useless. Why? Because useful life is which is meant to please the Lord. If any activity, Srimad Bhagavatam explains, done not for the pleasure of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Shavevai Kevalam, it's a waste of time. So it's useless in this life and in next life. But if it is done for the pleasure of the Lord, for the sake of the Lord, then it will give us eternal benefits. Okay. Okay. That's all I have. And let us see if anyone wants to say anything. Okay, very nice. Thank you very much. My pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhe evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavrinda ki jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.